So, welcome to the HVAC Game School community, the Drive to Work Wednesday, our weekly live Zoom call where you can ask questions and get answers. But do we have any community questions this week or no?
No, I didn't get any community questions this week.
Okay. Then I have one topic or two topics that we could go over.
Okay, go ahead.
And one thing, yes,
Go ahead.
one thing that I wanted to cover is defrosting frozen evaporator coils, because I've run into that a lot lately and I've tried a lot of different things. And I wanted to share some of my findings in regards to what I found the most efficient, or I mean, in different scenarios, you have different ways how it works best. But I just wanted to go over it a little bit and maybe give some more insights for other technicians so they can start thinking with it. And I don't know how other people do it. I hear a lot online that other technicians, they just turn off the unit and just come back the next day. But honestly, in commercial applications, sometimes that is just not feasible because you might have refrigeration, walk-in freezers or walk-in coolers where you have several thousand of dollars worth of product in there and you cannot turn it off. They don't have another storage space. They don't have another uh, size refrigerator or cooler like that. So sometimes you just have to be on site and fix the problem while you're there. And I tried, there's different because you have HVAC and then you have refrigeration. On refrigeration, usually you have smaller coils. On air conditioning, usually have the bigger coils. And feel free to interrupt if you have any questions while I'm going over
Oh,
this, but
yes, 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 no problem.
yeah. Um, so first talking about refrigeration, I tried everything from heat gun. 1 second, I have my notes here, but
Hmm.
so I tried everything from using a battery operated heat gun
Hmm.
to using hot water to using a corded heat gun to using a steamer
Hmm.
and to using the defrost of the unit. And there's pros and cons to each way. And I think you have to decide if you want to go more for convenience or if you want to go more for efficiency.
Mm.
That's kind of my findings. And I'm going to start with the one that I found the least helpful,
Uh-huh.
which is the battery operated heat gun. And that is just not enough power to melt anything.
Mm.
So it's probably useful for like smaller areas or something like that's hard to reach, or you just have a TXV that's frozen over, or just a little bit of the the line after the metering device because that tends to freeze the most easily. And it might be good just for that, or using it on different applications, like if you have heat shrink tubing, which is totally disrelated to defrosting evaporator coils. But that's kind of what I found it useful for is like small applications or heat shrinks or just drying out something. Or if you're working on a freezer that's cold and you have to replace, for example, a defrost termination switch on the evaporator, and then you can heat it up a little bit, make the wires a little bit looser. That kind of, it's like kind of like very situational.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't use a battery operated heat gun for trying to defrost an entire coil,
Oh, well.
which might make sense, yeah.
Hmm.
And then I would say the next one that I like the least favorite is the steamer,
Hmm.
which is basically just a steamer. Like you have hot water, you have a machine, and it heats up the water until it steams, and then you blow out the steam onto the coil. And it sounds like an awesome idea because you have the hot water vapor that's hitting the coil.
Hmm.
And theoretically, it should just melt the ice really fast because it's boiling water, it's steam, so
Hmm.
it's really hot. But what happens in actuality is that you have the steam, and because you have the ice, the steam condensates really, really fast. So you have all of these clouds of water mist that is all over the place. and it doesn't really allow you to see what you're aiming at and what you're melting. And it's also not as efficient as other methods, in my opinion. Like it works pretty well, but just because you can't see what you're working on and it's not efficient enough to make up for that, I personally don't like it.
Mm.
What I found it might be useful for is actual evaporator coil cleaning. So if
Mhm.
you're cleaning evaporator coils because you have the steam and you have the steam pressure and it's just water mist, so you're not using any chemical,
Mm.
but it kills all the bacteria because it is so hot.
Oh.
So it might be good for that,
Mhm.
but in terms of trying to defrost an evaporator coil, I would personally recommend that.
Mhm.
And then now the last two methods, you have to decide, I think, between efficiency and convenience. And also if you are working on refrigeration or air conditioning, what I say, what I like less favorite is next is hot water.
Mhm.
Hot water works very well, and it's probably the most efficient way if you're coupling it with a defrost on the unit. So
Mm.
you're just turning the unit, the fridge, usually you have a button and you can just push it, hold it down for a few seconds, and then you're activating the defrost. It's a manual defrost. And
Mhm.
then you have heating elements on of the bottom of the evaporator coil or in between, depends how it's set up. But the hot water really cuts through the ice very, very well. The only problem is on refrigeration. It depends if you have a floor drain or not, but all the refrigeration that I work on, they don't have a dedicated drain.
Mhm.
So the way this works is you have a reservoir that catches all the condensation, and there's a heating element inside that water that heats up the water and helps it evaporate.
Mhm.
But if you are melting the ice with hot water, you're overfilling that reservoir, and
Mm.
then you have water going everywhere. So it's very annoying. And if you suddenly you have water leaking out of everywhere, you can be like surprised. And
Mhm.
then it adds the ice and the hot water, so you have a lot of water coming out.
Mhm.
And if you're using hot water on refrigeration, you would always need a bed vacuum.
Mm.
So, and it's best to have a battery powered wet vacuum, in my opinion, because you can just easily move it around and easily empty it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
A corded one works well, but that's why I'm saying it's not as convenient as the last method that I'm going to cover.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. If you're working on air conditioning, on HVAC, and
Mm.
you have an evaporator coil that's frozen over, hot water works very well. And you just turn off the cooling and you just let the blower motor run because it helps to push hot air across the ice and help melt it. And then air conditioning has a dedicated drain. So if you're spraying hot water on the frozen evaporator coil, it will just drain away easily
Mhm.
and it's not an issue on there. So it is very efficient and I would recommend hot water a lot. But if you're working on refrigeration specifically, which that's what I've been working on a lot for the last weeks on frozen evaporator coils and stuff like that,
Mhm.
what I recommend the most is actually using the unit defrost and a corded heat gun
Mm.
and together because you have the heat from the heating element and then you're adding additional heat from your electric heat gun and it can actually put out a lot of heat and it helps melt the ice relatively quick. And usually you don't have to worry about the water reservoir. So it's more convenient. It might take a little bit longer, but you have less tools to set up. And yeah, you don't really have to worry about all the overflow of the water and stuff like that. So in my opinion, for refrigeration, an electric corded heat gun is probably the most efficient way, the best way to do it
Mhm.
overall.
Mhm.
But if you're working on air conditioning, I would probably go to hot water. And that's just what I've experienced, especially recently, but over my many years of working on that kind of stuff. And if you have the luxury of just being able to come back the next day, yes, go ahead and do that because obviously it's time and the customer will have to pay for your time of being there. And you can do that. But on refrigeration, particularly, I encounter it very often where it just you can't do it because they need either they need the space or they need the product and they can't lose the product. So they would rather pay you like two, three, four, $500 extra to take care of it right then and there instead of lose like several thousands of dollars worth of products that they're losing because the unit gets too hot.
Right. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's one thing I wanted to cover. So,
And then that
and
was
it,
that's the method that you like the most, right? That's the one that
that's what I prefer the most. Yeah, on refrigeration specifically, electric heat gun and hot water if you have a vacuum setup and if you're working on air conditioning particularly.
okay. And then okay, and just a different subject. Obviously, this is something that you wanted to cover. Different subject on this. Just on the community, I have been asking people what we should cover. I just wanted to put it out there here too, because we want to cover anything that other people have questions about or want to go over or they have doubts. So I wanted to say that we do cover the questions that they ask for, and we try
Hmm.
to make it as much efficient as we can. And if anybody is looking at this, uh, driving
The
to,
the
yeah,
replay.
the replay,
Yeah.
please, um, you can DM you or me or whatever, and then I will tell you what to cover, and then you will just do research if you don't know, or will just if you know, you just cover the whole thing. And that's what I was wanted to say. But
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
yeah, so this is
Yeah.
just.
Honestly, what I'm probably going to put in the community is I'm going to try it next week or the week after, probably next week. I want to see to not make it a scheduled call, but make it more a like situational call
Mhm,
where maybe we can still plan it for Wednesday or Thursday,
mhm,
but we do it in the later part of the day, like the afternoon.
mhm,
And I just go based on service calls or preventative maintenance that I'm doing.
mhm,
And I just put the camera there while I'm working, and then I can work on stuff. And maybe people have time, so we can just put it in the community, make like a community post at that time, or like 10 minutes before or half an hour before or something.
uh-huh,
And then we have a specific scenario where maybe it's a troubleshooting call, and I'm finding that it's a bad compressor, so I can just put my camera there and then go through what I do as troubleshooting. And then people, if somebody is able to join, I mean, obviously you as the host, you will be there and then you can
yeah,
ask questions. But
mhm,
if somebody's able to join at that specific time, it might be better if you just, I don't know if it's more interesting. I don't know exactly, but that was an idea I had to
mhm,
make it more interesting.
mhm.
And
Okay.
then it's also not always at the same time. So maybe different people can come at different times.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we have people from everywhere. Now we have a guy from England and other stuff like so
Yeah,
it's
from everywhere. I mean, we have people from all over
everyone
the US
and all.
and from Europe and from England, the UK, from New Zealand,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
from from Africa. So we have
Yeah.
people from everywhere, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's great. So yeah, so that's all I wanted to cover. I will probably message everybody to keep a feedback of what we might be doing or what they think is best. But yeah, so that's my idea, and that's what I wanted to cover. And
Yeah.
I'll just help out.
Then I'm just gonna cover quickly. So the plan for the next weeks or months on courses and stuff is to continue the advanced troubleshooting course, the electrical wiring diagram. And then I would like to go more into system components 201, where I go more into like more deeper into the components because the system components 101 course that I have is very basic and it just explains the basic function of every component. But there's obviously more to it because it's a whole system that works together. So maybe we can go more into controls, more into control boards and the different functions and maybe very like VFDs, variable frequency drives for motor speed control. So that's kind of what I'm planning. I put that in the community post as well, but I just wanted to cover it here.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right, well, I guess that's all we have, and then we'll see how next week turns out, okay?
sounds good. Okay, good.
All right.
Well, have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.